A very good afternoon to everyone, and I'm really delighted to be back at ISBACON. So this is my third time here, and it's so fascinating to be back here because this is one summit or one gathering where we come without the pressure of being reviewed or being in the panel for reviewing it, but rather we come here for introspection, right? So we have been introspecting. That's how the tone has been set up, and we are going to do that for the next day and a half. We also come here because I get to interact with people who I really have been inspiring us and inspiring, I think, all the government departments, stalwarts like Dipanita ma'am, Poini ma'am, Ramanan sir, and many more. So that gives us enough opportunity to come interact with them, go back with thoughts, and implement them in our day-to-day work. So as the whole point has been set up, even Praveen sir spoke about, we are at a very interesting juncture at this point. So our global innovation index ranking has come to 38, and just a decade back we were at 84. From there we have come to 38. But you know what? In the last 4 years, our climb up the rankings has actually slowed down. We have just gathered, I think, 4 places in the last 4 years. So that's a natural process, but nonetheless we have to keep it in mind. Though we are the third largest startup ecosystem with more than 180,000 startups and so on, but we surely can do better with our survival rate of our startups. We have 120, 130 plus unicorns, but I'm sure in a 3-year horizon, we should maintain the status of those unicorns. So I will say we are a place, we have come a lot, we have come a long way. We are there halfway, but we have many more things to do. And as I think Prasad, in his opening inaugural remarks, as well as in the morning session, did point out a question: what will ISBA look like, ISBA at 40? And ISBA at 40 is actually, we are talking about 2047. That's when we are supposed to be Viksit Bharat. And if we are supposed to be Viksit Bharat, we should be achieving those levels which are currently in the best of the countries. We should be aspiring to reach the per capita startup numbers which are equivalent to that of Israel or US, which we are still a long way to go. Now think of this scenario. If you're thinking of making your startups count by a 5x number, what is the kind of effort that will go in on the ground? And that's the effort that we together have to put in, right? So if we just break down the whole system, so I'll just take 5 minutes of it and try to break down what we need to do, because any goal of a 20 years is best achieved when we break it down into manageable smaller bits, right? So if you consider the whole innovation spectrum as a system, so we have something for the input to the ecosystem, there will be a processing unit, and there will be a substantial output. So when I say input to the system, are we creating enough for our pipelines, right? So if we are going to achieve the 5x number of startups, are we doing it the right way? So when I say right way, are we developing the future innovators or entrepreneurs? So because we are an innovation mission, and we started off in the year 2016 with a clear mandate of creating a culture of innovation and entrepreneurship in the country. And we said culture is a generational change, and so it will show its impact after 10, 15 years' time, but we have to start our intervention. And we have to start our intervention at the very basic level, which is at the schools. We believe the innovation journey starts for a child when he gets, maybe there is no specific time, but we believe that when maybe he is first exposed to Newton's laws in class 6. So that's the time. So that's where our Tinkering Labs program came into the picture. For 6-7 years, we have been nurturing 10,000 Tinkering Labs, and we are going to expand it to 60,000. So that is going to be your pipeline. The future innovators coming from those Tinkering Labs, the future, I think, knowledge workers working for those high-value startups are going to come for that. So as an incubator, you should ask yourself this question, or you should think of, are we engaging enough with these kind of Tinkering Labs to create a spectrum, to create a continuum for them, so that their whole bent of innovation doesn't get lost when in the transition between board exams and going for their higher education? So that is one thing which we are very keen to work with you, because we have something called a student entrepreneurship program and so on. So this is one takeaway that you should keep in mind, how you create that continuum with the school students, because you are mostly housed in higher education institutes, you will be taking care of that. But with school, no gap should come. So that's one. Second and most important thing is, while this entire deliberation today is happening in English, right? So that means there is some commonality between this language, in this language. But 80% of the India doesn't even speak English as its second, third, or fourth language? Are we really excluding them from the whole mainstream of innovation? So that is a question that we asked ourselves, and we felt the answer is yes. So maybe we are not able to go to 80% of the country. And from there is going to come our next rung of innovators. So Atal Innovation Mission is launching a program which is purely on language inclusion. So that is our endeavor to make the innovation ecosystem more inclusive. And that is where also we will be working with you, because the centers who are going to deliver the incubation services in vernacular language, work with vernacular innovators, and create their whole journey in a vernacular setup is going to come through you. So that is a second thing that you should keep in mind, that something which has to happen at the grassroots level, at the vernacular level. So having said this, now let's come to the second part. So if you do these two things correctly, we are increasing the input to the ecosystem, right? We are creating more number of entrepreneurs, more number of innovators coming here. But still the question still remains, right? How do you increase the survival rate of the startups? How do you increase the thriving rate of the startups? So that's where our processing unit really comes into the picture. So processing unit typically talks about the quality of incubation services that we provide, the quality of incubation programs that we devise. So are we putting our enough thoughts with the emerging trends, with the emerging requirements of the ecosystem? So here I think three things that we need to keep in mind. Some things obviously has to come from the government side, which we are trying to put in. One, we want to create a regional balance. Currently, if we still talk about innovation ecosystem, startup ecosystem, we know it's Delhi NCR, Mumbai, Pune, Bangalore, Hyderabad, Chennai, and emerging clusters like Jaipur, Indore, and so on. But what about rest of the country? So regional imbalance exists, and we have to set our goals to create a balance in that. I think ISBA, for instance, can play a very vital part, or actually any incubator who has been this in space for like 20 plus years can be really good mentors to the upcoming incubators that are getting set up by the states, getting set up by Atal Innovation Mission, which are called community innovation centers, and so on. So your job is also to mentor the new incubators. So that is something which you will have to deliver if you are to achieve a state that we want to go in the next 10, 20 years. So that is one, regional balance. Second is our growth in the global innovation index has slowed down because low-hanging fruits are over. We have plucked them all. So now needs a structural changes that needs to come. And that can't come top down. It can't be done at a central level. It has to be decentralized, and it has to come from the states themselves. So only then we will be able to go ahead in a similar manner. So as ma'am pointed out very well, how her department is trying to do all these things, I think we need similar kind of structure across the country. So a state innovation mission initiative from Atal Innovation Mission is actually working with the states to create these kind of templates, creating or augmenting the startup and innovation policies, creating the innovation programs, creating a whole institutional structure that can unearth innovation from the block level or from the village levels. So that is something where, again, incubators will play a part, and we all together should be very proud of doing that. But we will make, with these initiatives, we'll make the car very well. We will have a very good car in place. But do we have enough good drivers? Drivers are the people who run the incubation center. You being the CEOs or managers have seen it day in, day out. We don't have a structured mechanism where we unearth real talent. And when I say real talent, I'm not talking about generic things like you need to understand financing, you need to understand some bit of legal or something. But you have to be best in class in what we do. We have to define competencies for each profile that is on work in our incubation centers. And based on those profiles, can we create structured modules which people can start, study, get trained on the job, and become exemplary workers for our innovation ecosystem. So that is something, again, which Atal Innovation Mission is trying to do with its Human Capital Development Program. And there, again, I had a brief chat with Davinderji and with Prasad in the morning. That is where I feel ISBA can come in and we can work together to create this for the entire country, well beyond the spectrum of Atal Innovation Mission. Apart from that, quality of incubation can also be increased when you think about what's next. You think about what does deep tech require? What does each sector require? Because each sector's go-to-market will require different kinds of intervention will seem very different to each other. Are we doing that, or are we playing the role of a generic incubator? So this is something which our capacity building has to happen. And the points that Praveen sir said, I think those have to be imbibed, and we have to leverage the points that has been stated. So if we do all these things, maybe our processing unit will come to a stage where we will be churning out more number of potentially successful startups. Ultimately, market decides whether I'm successful or not. Now let's come to the third part, which is the output part. So we have seen more number of innovators coming into the system. We see their success rate increasing, but what about the final part, which is commercialized part? So are we working enough with the industry here? Because, TRL 7+, where you are actually looking at your revenue models, your business models, and you are actually taking your product to the market, your go-to markets, that is where another pitfall is. Are we doing enough to circumvent that? When I say circumvent that, I think somebody who has been there in the sector, done that, which are the industry partners, are we working enough with those partners? Are we creating a value proposition for the industry to work with our startups? See, at this point, what does an industry need? It needs solution to its own company's problem or the problems that are defined for the sector. They are also looking at solution that can potentially affect their top and bottom lines. Simply put, what are we looking at from the government perspective, from an incubator perspective? We want our startups to survive. We want our startups to get integrated in the supply chain of that sector. Can an industry partner that I'm working with work with 3 of my startups as their potential vendors going forward? Can that acceleration program with the industry enable my startups to be more investable? Can that acceleration program with the industry make my startup in a position that they can really rapidly scale up? And finally, can I get my startups to a position where they should be a target of potential acquisition? Do we have this kind of a vision in mind when we work with the industry? If not, that is something maybe we will have to try and do with. So in the course of the coming 2 years, AIM will be establishing 20 industrial accelerators of this kind, which will be housed in association with the incubators, along with an industry partner championing that particular sector. And finally, because I am from the government, so I will be a little biased. There are enough opportunities that are coming up where startups can work with the government themselves. They can co-develop their solution with the government. IDEX is a prime example of it. If you know about IDEX, it's an Innovation for Defense Excellence, an institution created under Ministry of Defense just to work with MSMEs and startups of India, targeted at indigenization of technology and import substitution. So if that is one opportunity that was created, several more opportunities are getting created in agriculture, in railways, in Ayush, and so on, and this will go on. So we have to be at our toes for taking advantage of these kind of opportunities that come up. So net, having said this, I think I'll just close by saying that keep in mind that this is a very dynamic field that we are working upon. Maybe some things that worked 3 years back is not going to work in the future. So we have to keep evolving and we have to keep strengthening ourselves with the help of the government, taking help of the industry. And that's how we have come up with the triple helix structure, right? Each brings their own advantages and positive things in place. So we'll keep these things in mind and we'll work with the smaller bits of work that I just spoke about. And maybe in 10 years' time, we will be at a position where we can say 2047, we are definitely on course to become a Viksit Bharat. Thank you so much.
To stay informed about the startup ecosystem, subscribe to My Startup TV.